Hi everybody, welcome to the midterm exam for U.S. History. This is the modified test recording. Because the midterm is a little larger than a typical unit test, we're going to do this recording in two parts. So please make sure to have access to both recording links as you work. One of the things I want to point out before you get started with your test, if you do see two-page options on the top of your test page once you enter into the midterm exam, don't worry about the page 2. As you scroll down, you're going to see that you can scroll all the way down to question 50, which is as far as you need to go. Because of the length of the test, please make sure that you remember to treat this test like any other test. If you're going into a test, you have to go in ready to complete the test. You can walk away for a few minutes to get a drink of water, stretch your legs, use the facilities, that kind of thing. But please make sure that you don't keep this open for days or even hours upon hours at a time. It could cause a submission error. Make sure that you save your answers as you go and then click Submit for grading at the end. I always recommend that students list 1 to 50 on a piece of paper and make sure they make note of what answer choices they are selecting for each one. Should you have a major problem with your test and your work does not record and I have to reset it or anything like that, at least you would have an idea of what you answered the first time and you would not need to start over. All very important things to protect your work and to keep you from having any additional problems as you test. Okay, let's get started with our test. Again, there are 50 questions here. The first part, we will start and see how far we get with the first recording. Question number 1, according to one theory, how did the earliest people come to the Americas? Europeans traveled across a landmass that connected Europe and North America. Native Americans migrated to Asia and brought others with them when they returned, or Southeast Asians sailed across the Pacific Ocean to North America. Number 2, what was the main reason for the founding of Jamestown? New food sources, to honor King James, or so investors could make money? Number 3, what purpose did the Mayflower Compact serve in the Plymouth colony? It spelled out the religious beliefs of the colonists, it established a government separate from England, or it served as the basis for passing laws for the colony. Number 4, why did colonists object to paying taxes to the British government? They had no elected representation in Parliament. The money funded only British troops, not the American militia that provided colonial defense. Or they did not want to pay more taxes than British citizens. Number 5, which group of events occurred during the American Revolution? Was it Group A, that includes American victory at Saratoga, naval successes for John Paul Jones, American losses at Charlestown and Savannah, and British surrender at Yorktown? Or would it include items and events in Group B? First Continental Congress was convened, shots fired at Independence Hall, and the British treaty with the Hessians. Was it Group A or Group B? Number 6, what did James Madison expect the Constitutional Convention to do when they arrived in Philadelphia? Did he expect them to follow the model provided by the Virginia legislature, replace the Articles of Confederation, or consult with French scholar Montesquieu to resolve questions about the nature of government? Number 7, what were the Federalist Papers? Were they documents written by J. Hamilton Madison to persuade people to adopt the new Constitution? Was it the British response to the Declaration of Independence, or documents written by Franklin, Adams, and Jefferson that keep the Articles of Confederation? Number 8, which of the following is not a responsibility of the executive branch of government? Carry out laws, veto a bill, or declare laws unconstitutional? What was George Washington's belief about U.S. foreign policy? The United States should form a strong alliance with France, the United States should remain neutral, or the United States should be open to alliances with all nations? Number 10, what acquisition doubled the size of the United States and offered control of the Mississippi River? Was it the Florida Cession, the Lewis and Clark Expedition, or the Louisiana Purchase? Number 11, which are related to the War of 1812? Electing James Madison, forming a navy, and creating an alliance with France? burning Washington, writing the Star-Spangled Banner, and fighting the Battle of New Orleans. Or the last option, signing a treaty with Canada, creating a national bank, and increasing the size of Congress. Number 12, what was the Monroe Doctrine? The position that colonization by European countries would not be tolerated in America. The plan for resolving the financial crisis that followed the Panic of 1819, or the series of treaties negotiated following the War of 1812. Number 13, which group describes Andrew Jackson's supporters? Group A, which includes small farmers and others that distrusted banks, strong supporters of slavery, proponents of westward expansion, and people who questioned the market economy. Or would supporters of Andrew Jackson more include Group B, people opposed to slavery, merchants and bankers, moral reformers, especially with respect to Native Americans, and people who supported the market economy? Number 14, a crisis erupted in the 1830s over nullification. What was nullification? Was it the result of a presidential veto that Congress failed to override? The notion or idea that state delegations could change their votes in Congress within 10 days that the president had to veto legislation? Or the last option, the idea that a state could declare federal legislation invalid and prevent its enforcement and possibly secede? Number 15, which of the following best explains why people immigrated to the United States in the 19th century? Fertile land, jobs and the chance for a better life, gold, potatoes, and the right to vote, or the last option, rich water sources, high wages, and labor protection. Number 16, which does not describe the South in the early 1800s, widespread cotton production, wealth based on slave economy, or export of manufactured goods. Number 17, what did religious beliefs and a sense of optimism inspire many Americans to do during the early 19th century? Spend more time with their families, participate in social reform movements, or attend church more frequently. Number 18, which of the most important or key purposes of the which was the most important or key purpose of the Compromise of 1850? To resolve Texas statehood issues, to preserve the balance between slave states and free states, or to preserve the Union? Number 19, what was not one of the North's strengths at the beginning of the Civil War? Several military colleges, well-established government, or many miles of railroad tracks? Number 20, how did the Emancipation Proclamation change the meaning of the Civil War? By eliminating slavery in new states and territories, by freeing Southern troops from their military commitments so that they could return home, or by promising an end to slavery in the Confederate States. Number 21, they're asking what is the meaning of these words from Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. The portion of the address included with, and shown here in quotation marks, states that the nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Does it mean the nation would soon have freedom and be governed by the people? Democracy in the United States would last? Or the people were essential to freedom and government? Why is the Civil War considered the first modern war? Was it advanced strategies and unusual reconnaissance, new technology and advanced weaponry, or successful generals in military blockade? Number 23, which was not an achievement of women during the Civil War? Maintaining life on the home front, running for political office, or developing a professional nursing corps? In number 24, you're going to use the graph to answer the following question. Which side had more casualties during the Civil War? Remember that casualties can mean injuries and deaths. So we have our chart here with the North and the South, North depicted in blue, South depicted in gray. Your options are casualties were about the same, unclear from the graph, or the North. So which side had more casualties during the Civil War? Number 25, what was the effect of the Homestead Act on Western settlement? It had little effect on Western settlement, but a big impact in the South. It brought a great number of settlers to California. White Americans settled much of the Great Plains. Number 26, how did 19th century railroads influence today's corporate America? Railroads stressed the benefit of competition and opposed monopolies. Railroads were the first businesses to raise funds by issuing stocks and bonds, or railroads created an awareness of the importance of transportation. Number 27, what was the purpose of the Sherman Antitrust Act? To provide an agency to restore public trust, to develop another revenue source for the federal government, to eliminate any agreement or contract that restrained trade. Number 28, how did the immigration of the late 1800s differ from earlier immigration? Immigration was much easier because of faster processing. Early immigrants came largely from Northern and Western Europe, while immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe dominated in the late 1800s. Immigrants in the late 1800s came with greater wealth and more education than earlier immigrants. Number 29, which group of innovations and inventions is in correct chronological order? The mechanical reaper, telephone, box camera, cotton gin. Or cotton gin first, reaper, telephone, then the box camera. Or the last option, telephone, cotton gin, reaper, box camera. Number 30, which statement is true of relations between Native Americans and the colonies or United States between 1607 and 1900? Native Americans avoided contact and conflict with non-Indians in North America as much as possible. Native Americans suffered hardships when Europeans first arrived in North America, but relations improved during the 1800s. Or the last option, the desire for land led colonists and the United States government and people to push Indians off their land and to destroy their way of life. I'm going to stop the recording here for this part, and we will pick up with number 31 on the second recording.